Hi, everyone. It's really great to have you with us. I'm Katie Skibinski, Chief Innovation Officer at Planned Parenthood. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman with blonde hair, a white shirt, sitting in my corner desk situation in my dining room.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ambreen, Molitor. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the National Director of Innovation. Really excited to be here. And for folks that need additional information, I have dark hair, brown colored skin. I am wearing silver earrings and against sort of a beige-ish background.
So, in social good, innovation is not just a buzzword, it's really ongoing accountability to a mission, even when the conditions around you are changing significantly. To create a new innovation capability at Planned Parenthood, Ambreen and I have been through a crash course on merging innovation truisms with a really urgent sense of responsibility to the people that Planned Parenthood serves. In this talk, you'll hear what we've learned about innovating for good and how you can deploy these best practices in your career. So let's get into it. Why and how are we working on innovation for good? Ambreen and I are women in product. I spent 15 years in product and program leadership at digital agencies, and Ambreen has 15 years of experience as both a front-end dev and a product leader at big companies and at startups. We both came to Planned Parenthood years ago to launch and lead digital products like our website, our online appointment scheduling tool, our live chat and chatbot, and our period tracker app. This work alone is super impactful. Planned Parenthood engages nearly 200 million digital users per year, in most cases answering their questions about reproductive health and empowering them to make their own informed decisions. And for those who needed care, we funneled about 2 million of those digital users per year to appointments at our health centers. But about a year ago, we were charged by our president, Alexis McGill Johnson, who is super awesome, by the way, with building a broader innovation capability within the organization. And here's why. First, in case you haven't heard, we're dealing with a changing legislative landscape, even within the last couple of weeks, most prominently around abortion, but not exclusively. And we need to deliver care continuously and education, even when the rules of engagement are changing. Second, our constituents are constantly changing. We serve young people, and that means constantly studying generational trends to ensure we're meeting our end users where they are. Third, as you all know better than anyone, tech is constantly evolving. In the past couple of years, especially, we've seen so much investment in digital health, and especially women's health tech. Our patients have a lot of choices for how to get reproductive health care, and we need to know the landscape and we need to evolve accordingly. And finally, among all of these changes, we are accountable to the same mission we always were: equitable access to reproductive health care. So we have to innovate to stay relevant and accessible. So today, Ambreen and I want to share what we've learned as we've built this new program and stretched beyond our product muscle memory. These are learnings that you might apply to your current role. They are totally applicable to product strategy. Or if you're between roles, which we know many of you are right now, these might be concepts you can talk about in interviews and cover letters to strengthen your candidacy for a new role. Another possibility that we want to plant in your minds is that broader innovation thinking, business innovation, social impact innovation, comes really naturally to product leaders. And so there might be other types of roles you could explore or grow into.
Thanks, Katie. So before we get into like what exactly what we're doing or what we did, want to take a step back and just name that innovation traditionally for us was just, a handful of folks in the organization that were really focused on product-led innovation. This time around, we really brought the entire organization to innovate. And what we did is we asked everyone to help us identify both iterative and transformational new strategies across these 4 strategic zones that you're seeing on the slide. And what those strategic zones, just quickly to translate, are essentially three things with an extra focus around abortion access. The first is to make sure sexual and reproductive health care is as accessible as possible. And accessible for us is easy to understand, easy to get, easy to afford. And then once you get that care, it's high quality care. It's of the highest caliber, it's impartial, it's fair, and you feel like you're being listened to, and you're getting the care that you deserve and need. And then the final piece is around the movement, making sure everyone in the community believes that sexual and reproductive health care is something that is we can continuously work towards and grow and scale. So that's building alliances with community leaders, with corporations, with folks like yourselves, and really pushing that movement forward. And finally, with innovation, with these strategic pillars, what we really did is looked at ways that different people and pieces of the organization were best set to answer the question of what should we do now? Are there things that exist in the world? Are there new things that need to be made? And then what we did is we put cross-collaborative folks together. So people that were working at clinics, actual patients, tech experts, all together in a room, and using particular frameworks. So whatever fit best with that group. That could be lean, that could be a design sprint in the form of a Google design sprint. And what we did is we made sure that makeup of the group first felt comfortable. And second, once they all felt that they were empowered and they knew they had the tools and they knew they had the skill sets in the room, we worked with them to ask them to derive some of the learnings that they would get from the sprints that they were containing or building. And from there, they would make new recommendations. That didn't really mean abandon the present or the past. It just meant we had to challenge and question, do we start from the existing or do we start from scratch? And that's something that a lot of people in product, we oftentimes ask that when we're asking the question of build, buy, or partner. So again, not very dissimilar to product practice, but think of that taking product to an organizational level, which is really interesting. And the next slide really talks about how we took an entire organization and transformed that culture. So a lot of it is less, when you're working in product, it's really thinking about what are the skill sets you need, or what are the skills and tech that you need to build a solution. This is more of like, how do you change the culture and the thinking to get the skills to then build and transform? And so we did that in two ways. The first were the tools that we provided. And that was really helping the organization getting into the mindset of transformation. So that involved a lot of lightweight trainings that took place over a few hours, where we used our process in their day-to-day to help problem solve their needs. We also provided templates people could use to facilitate their own workshops. And we were happy to pass on for anyone in this conversation if you're interested. And then finally, we invited people to leave the building, like the four walls, and invited external speakers to talk about how they worked on innovation in their organization. And really, that was the first step of really, changing that mindset of, it actually felt a little bit like competitive analysis. So you're starting to look at how different people are working on innovation, but it also was a great tool that we felt helped spark that sort of, oh, I see how it can be done, and kind of started getting them into the mindset of transformation. The second part is the build. This is how we did it. And so with these programs, once we, had everyone feel comfortable about what it meant to transform, what it meant to innovate, and what are the different tools you use, we felt that people felt very empowered, very excited, really interested in moving forward. And then we worked with them to facilitate the how we move forward. So that was in the form of sprints. That was in the form of different ways that we basically allowed people across collaborative group to get together to figure out ways that we could identify what our ideal consumers wanted. And the questions we asked were, do we have it? If not, does someone else in the ecosystem? And what should we do to move ahead? The answer to this question was really empowered by the sprints, the cross-collaborative groups, as we called it, to answer this question. And then ultimately, they recommended if we would build in-house, and we would incubate a solution, or we could buy software, services, or staff to do the task, or quite simply find a co-pilot and partner with an organization to build a long-term solution. So this slide really talks about, after this full year of doing these pilots, here are the 5 things that we've learned that have been they seem very obvious, but when you're thinking about really transforming an entire organization, these are the subtleties that go a long way. So the first one is small, diverse teams. I think this is very popular in tech, the concept of enough for everyone to get a slice of pizza, so no more than 8 people. If you have 4 to 6, even better, more people get 2 slices of pizza, that sort of idea. It really allows people to make sure that everyone has an opportunity and a chance to bring in their skill sets. There's no repetition and everyone has a voice. The second one is a clear vision. And that really means we are providing them the why and some numbers. So what is happening? Why is that happening? What does that look like numerically? Is there an increase? Is there an opportunity? Is there a decrease? Providing that sort of clear vision helps the organization really understand what is the problem that is set to be solved for. And that really allows them to be like, okay, I know what is the problem that I'm setting myself up to solve for. And that actually is the most powerful tool to help them empower and dream bigger when they have that sort of context. The third is time and space to experiment. So when we brought folks into sprints or allow them to, participate in any form of, whether that be a sprint or in the incubation process, or if they're helping us find or connect with partners, that was on top of their day-to-day. So what really ended up happening is we actually, when we found someone that we wanted to work with, the next step was to connect with the manager and that person to say, if they take on this task, we don't want to overburden them. So is there something we could deprioritize? Is there another way that we could work? This seems very basic, but it really is profound in the way that it set everyone up for success. It allowed them to be like, I need to be in the space, rather than you are volunteering yourself to be in the space. The fourth one is co-designing with community. I think a lot of people in this room know the importance of that, but I think we took it, a step further in many different ways, and we can talk about it. But co-designing with community is always the best. You're always going to get the purest and rawest observations that bring you the best ideas when you have the community in the room. And then the fifth one is optimism. So optimism is something, when you're doing transformation or when you're innovating, it has all of the recipes, skepticism, pessimism, a lot of questioning. I think everyone knows those are actually ingredients for breakthrough innovation. So when you're met with all of these tough emotions and tough feedback, which sometimes you may feel yourself too, the one thing we kept working through is allowing people to feel those feelings and really sitting with them, and then figuring out ways to problem solve for that and actually listening to that. There's truth in that, but then also the formulation of transformation is sitting through that, acknowledging that, and figuring out ways to solve for it instead of ignoring it. So all of that baked in really brought in the culture of change. The next few things are actually going deep into some of the takeaways that we had when we initially started doing this cross-collaboration work. The first two are really going to be things when you bring people from outside of your organization, outside of the 4 walls, and you bring them in to collaborate with. So the first one is, again, echoing something that I've already said on the prior slide, is the communities you serve are your best innovators. And so what we usually did, or, in the past, what we did is various forms of user research. The form that we felt worked best in transformational user research is a concept called empathetic design. And for folks that don't know, it's not much different than making sure that you're doing traditional market research methods where it's heavily based on observation, but the additive is actually doing it in the customer's own environment. And I would actually add another sort of adjective or descriptor to say in the customer's own environment where they feel safe, psychologically safe and empowered. And so what that really meant for us, some of the best practice, we had so many, but some of the top ones that I think really changed the game for us are first doing a lot of things either asynchronously or doing it in flex hours. So that really meant if there was something someone can do, write a summary, talk about their emotions, journal, that was actually way more powerful than having them come on the spot at a particular time and ask us how they're feeling. The other thing in terms of flex hours is the 9 to 5 is actually dedicated for most people for either their work or their academic career. And to come in and disrupt that actually puts them in a very weird space. So oftentimes when we really wanted to talk to a patient, let's say this patient worked all day and she had to put her kids to bed. Connecting with them at 8:30 was the best time where they were like in a good headspace. They could give undivided attention and they felt comfortable. We were flexing for them. We were being, allowing them to set up the environment that they wanted to have this conversation. So stuff like that really went a very long way. Instead of, actually putting someone in the place where we burden them with the hours that we generally work. The other thing was actually making sure the brainstorm was virtual. We found that helped level set different kinds of personalities. So extroverts and introverts did fairly well when we went virtual. Folks that were oftentimes quiet or, it helped build like some sort of even playing field. And it also helped, I would say, people of different hierarchy or status. So if someone was coming in and all of us were a team, it felt different when you're in a room. But when you're virtual, it all felt like we were doing something together. The third thing is let them design. This is something I think this is common practice again, but just naming once you have someone in the room virtually, asynchronously, in whichever form, let them design, introduce these concepts of this is a wireframe. Would you be willing to draw a wireframe? And I think that actually, in a lot of the wireframing and a lot of the prototyping that the actual patients or, the co-community came in to build was actually the most influential in terms of the decision-making or the direction we went. So really cool to see that. The next slide is really talking about how when we got to the conclusion where a partnership play was the right way to move forward to achieve our strategic goal. I just wanted to name 4 different ways because I think that's been helpful for a lot of organizations to figure out. One, if anyone in this audience is in any flavor of this, please reach out. But also for anyone that is in a product role looking at partnership opportunities, here's some, unique and different ways that I think have been untraditional at Planned Parenthood, but have been like very fruitful in the making. So the first one is corporate responsibility. That is a lot of corporations signing up, either signing a petition and or working with their HR department to have, the benefits for the employees to obtain the services that we provide. The second one is startups to fill in the gaps fast. And so this is a unique opportunity that we've explored recently where we've been working with startups to essentially help us. They've already built the software. They are very much connected to the community, and we're working with them to figure out how they fit into the fold of our user journey or our technical solutions. The third one is academia for research. This is exciting for us. This is, the women's healthcare gap is very, very, very big and dense. And we're really eager to fill that up in many unique ways. I have to name, we've just started these conversations. We haven't, in terms of innovation and transformation, we've always done academic research. But this has been a unique way where we're filling in the gaps as we're identifying them in terms of the needs we have for transformational change. And the fourth one this is really exciting, is working with we build coalitions to solve an ecosystem problem. So creating an area and, thinking more around the user's needs. So if they're seeing 4 solutions, instead of making those 4 solutions our competitors, we're working together to be like, how do we help solve the same problem that all of our users have? And we do this together in a way where ultimately it ends up being socially impactful.
So at Planned Parenthood, innovation, as Ambreen described, is a collaboration with lots of different kinds of colleagues. We're collaborating with healthcare providers, academics, community organizers, and the differing expectations around the pace of work and risk management and process are really, really significant between all these different professions. So although not all social good work has these specific kinds of roles, more often than not, it's really, really interdisciplinary, and you'll be collaborating with people who have very different professional backgrounds from yours. So part of our job as innovation leaders is culture change, demonstrating the value of innovation, showing people what it looks like, and showing how intentional innovation can help all of our programs and teams really shine. There's no silver bullet to this culture change, as any innovator inside of a big organization will tell you. But here are a few things we've learned that have really helped. First, listen. Just like we were hired into Planned Parenthood to leverage and share our expertise from the tech space, product and innovation, our colleagues were hired into the organization to leverage their expertise in all of these other fields. And their fields are critical to our success. So in order to collaborate, we have needed to slow down, listen, and learn about our colleagues' process and their decision-making framework. Second, really lean into empowerment of the teams that you're working with and their autonomy. It's been really helpful to deputize everyone on staff as innovators by offering them the learning opportunities that Ambreen described. So guest speakers, convenings, readings, where they can learn about innovation and interpret it in their own way, in their own work. We try to focus on really high level ideas to communicate to people that they can run with. So if our colleagues learn about prototyping, testing, and iterative decision making, or if they just learn to run ideas by end users before scaling them, that's success. Third, we are evaluating our program in an ongoing way. It doesn't matter how good our frameworks are and how good our facilitation is if they don't work well for our colleagues. So our evaluation team surveys the participants in our programs regularly so that we can constantly improve. And finally, you have got to have support from the top to make this culture change work. In addition to evangelizing innovation culture, it's really, really important that your top leader or leaders empower an innovation team to work on certain concepts autonomously. So, the innovation team needs to be able, in certain cases, to incubate and make progress a little faster with a little bit less direct coordination with program teams when concepts have either been proven just enough or are totally new to the organization. So for transformative innovation especially, it's critical that the prototyping and testing process have a really small number of really clear owners to nail down a strategy before the organization decides to scale it. You can innovate for social good from within a corporate job. So what we've described so far is what you can do if you find yourself within a social good organization or role. How can you lead innovation from that space? But for those of you who work for a tech company, a corporation, an agency, you can still innovate for social good from the role that you have now. We have lots of supporters in tech, but here's how you can really stand out and really deliver impact without giving up your RSUs. So first is consistency. We have so many supporters within big, really important, high-profile companies, and they raise their hands to help. We get this all of the time, and we're so grateful. Sometimes life can get in the way, priorities can change, and we can't always sort of keep up with all of these relationships. You'll stand out as a corporate partner for nonprofits if you stay connected with your point of contact over time. Second, internal advocacy, and Ambreen touched on some of this. Some of the most important things that corporate partners can do are to voice public support for the social issues that are important to them, to interrogate their own company's internal policies. So if you think about last summer when Roe fell, so many companies made public statements in favor of abortion access. It was awesome to see. That visibility really, really matters. And so many companies also created policies to support their employees in accessing abortion, which they then shared publicly as well. And in many cases, we know that this was due to internal activism from the company's employees. So thank you for those of you who did that. This is how really broad culture change happens, and it really does make a huge difference. And then finally, thought partnership. So Planned Parenthood and many other nonprofits have really smart, really seasoned digital and innovation teams. Many of us come from tech companies. But because we're now at nonprofits, we aren't necessarily always hearing about all of the latest thinking about how to leverage technology or about innovative ways of working. If you're inside a tech org, find a buddy or a team at a nonprofit. Meet with them regularly to provide learnings from your world. Mentor nonprofit tech folks who might be more junior than you. We've had senior folks at big tech companies do this for our teams, and it really, really gives us lots of fresh ideas and helps us advance in our work. And then last, identify strategic collaboration. So in many cases, a nonprofit will be better equipped to provide subject matter expertise than to build big digital ecosystems ourselves. We just don't have enough people to do all of that building. So if you work for a tech company, think about how teams from the social good space might be good partners to you in providing expertise, content, and often mutual brand benefit while you design and build the tech. When these types of collaborations help both organizations accomplish their strategic goals and deliver real impact, you're hitting the nail on the head. That's sort of the dream. And with that, we want to thank you a ton for coming to our talk. And we are super excited to continue the conversation and answer your questions.